Star Wars Jedi Academy is a game where Jedi commit war crimes unchallenged, where no two elevators come out facing the same way, and is a game with an entire galaxy of people with resting bitch face. Released in 2003 on the id Tech 3 engine, Jedi Academy released only 1 year after Jedi Outcast, and was the final game in the Jedi Knight series, which began in 1995 with Star Wars Dark Forces. For the sake of this review, I have taken the liberty of applying minor graphical tweaks to spruce up this old ass game, but rest assured that the gameplay remains as untouched, unrefined, and uncircumcised as it was back in 2003. Jedi Academy takes place in the Legends canon, formerly known as the Expanded Universe, the very same canon that was nuked after Disney's acquisition of the Star Wars franchise. The Expanded Universe brought such great things like Kyle Katarn, Luke's new Jedi Order, and the Yuuzhan Vong. But on the other hand, it also brought the Star Wars Holiday Special, turned Leia and Han's son to the dark side, and brought back Emperor Palpatine. No longer canon? Good riddance. Wait. In Jedi Academy, you play as Jaden Korr as you navigate the long, difficult, and morally dubious path of a Jedi apprentice. Starting with the character creator, you can select your species, sex, clothes, and most importantly, which buttocks you'll spend the rest of the game staring at. I trust you'll make the right decision. After that, you choose your lightsaber from a variety of different hilts and crystal colours. In the Star Wars canon, they are blue for the Jedi Guardians, honourable warriors whose combat prowess exceeds that of their peers. The Guardians are the ones sent when peace is no longer an option. Then there's green for the Jedi Consular, who spends their days mastering the use of the Force. The Consulars are keepers of the peace, not soldiers. And Piss Colour for the Knights of Piss, a sacred order dedicated to the death and destruction of any who stand in their way of their knightly duty. They seek to complete the mission, no matter the cost. And then of course, there's the Amethyst Blade for the other dark side of the Force. The lightsaber colour you choose determines absolutely nothing. It's purely cosmetic. Sorry. Disappointed by the lack of lightsaber options? Don't worry, more on that later. As a prospective Jedi, you are sent to Yavin 4 to undergo your Jedi training. In the ship are other hopefuls, each with the aspiration of one day upholding law and order as a Jedi Knight. Luckily for you, and everyone else, the new Jedi Order seems to have abandoned its ancient practice of kidnapping babies to act as child soldiers, to serve in their weird religious order. Otherwise, the immediate crash landing on day one would have killed each and every one of you. Coming to your senses, you use your Jedi wiles to create a bridge for your companion, slaughter the surrounding wildlife, and then make your way to the nearby Jedi Temple. There you witness the remnants of the Empire in collusion with dark side Force users in the middle of some kind of ritual. You're seen, knocked unconscious, and discovered by your new Jedi Masters. The mystery of the ritual, and what the Empire has to do with it, form the basis of Jedi Academy's story. It turns out that being a Jedi apprentice is pretty hardcore. In my very first so-called training mission, I shot, dismembered, and blew up 28 people.
It looks like this cult and the Imperials may be working together more closely than we thought.
In my second it was 86, and that's pretty intense. The other missions in the first batch involve killing sand people en masse to retrieve one single droid, killing stormtroopers en masse to defuse some bombs, and killing terrorists en masse to prevent the Corellian equivalent of 9/11.
If that tram had exploded in the city, it could have killed thousands of people.
Throughout the game, you are given a list of bite-sized training missions that you can take in any order, which will then be followed by an important story mission, then followed again by another batch of training missions, and so on and so forth. The training missions? Love them. They're short, fun, and simple. The story missions though? Get them out of here. I like the story in Jedi Academy, but the missions required to advance them are often overly long, have poor level design, and completely overstay their welcome. I find that only the last 10 minutes of any story mission is actually worthwhile. They also highlight the main issue that I have with older games in general. You can never 100% trust anything in this game. These blue force fields deflect lasers and don't hurt you. These blue force fields deflect lasers and electrocute you to death. Standing on this power conduit while it's being force levitated will vaporize you instantly, but standing on it after it has been lowered to the ground is fine. That thing is still active. What crackheads thought that was a good idea? Hence, therefore, moreover, the shorter training missions are just much better experiences. They'll usually be based around a single concept such as the floor is lava, and just run with that. Or, the maps will be smaller and much faster to backtrack through if you think you might have missed something. If you find yourself stuck at any point during any mission, just look up a walkthrough. There's no shame in that, because there is no joy to be had in the trial and error involved in finding the solution. As you play through the game, you'll learn and develop your force powers. The powers range from pretty useful and well worth the points you put in to upgrade them, to absolutely useless to the point that you often forget that it exists. They are categorized as core powers, which develop naturally as the story progresses, and light and dark side powers, which you earn points to upgrade after every mission. Your core powers include force push and pull, perfect for knocking over enemies and peacefully disarming them. Force speed, to exploit enemies who turn too slowly. Saber throw, with which you can limp-wristedly toss your lightsaber down a hallway of enemies, killing them all instantly, or watch someone else swat it out of the air before putting you on the ground. Oh yeah, and then there's Force Sense. You know how old games oftentimes have confusing and cryptic level design? Force Sense is the power you would expect to be the solution to that. Force Sense is introduced as a way to highlight objects and characters even through walls. During the tutorial, by using Force Sense, you discover that there are stone blocks in the wall that can be moved with Force Pull. So far, so good. But when I was stuck in this section with the power conduit being held up above the water, I couldn't see anything useful. The solution is to use Force Pull on these pumps so that they can drain the water and the conduit can be safely lowered to the ground. Why don't they glow when I use Force Sense? What is the point of this power? If I never had it, I wouldn't keep expecting it to actually do something. I may not be a smart man, but this truly feels like the pinnacle of crackhead game design. On top of your core powers, you also have access to dark side and light side powers, or as I like to call them, powers, because they don't really have much to do with your alignment at all. Is mind-breaking a man and causing him to gun down his comrades really something a good person would do? Is using the force to choke a person to death any more cruel than force pushing them into a bottomless pit? I'd like to draw your attention to the starting weapon loadout, specifically the 10-Loss Disruptor Rifle. This weapon is banned in most places of the galaxy because it can disintegrate targets at the molecular level. According to Star Wars canon, it isn't just to fade to black for the receiving end. Being disintegrated is the most painful possible way to die in the Star Wars universe. As the beam hits you, every single one of your atoms is vaporized in what seems like an instant to an observer, but relative to the victim, feels like an eternity of suffering. It's an actual war crime, and Luke Skywalker, the undisputed good guy of the galaxy, is like, okay, cool. So when I look at this list of so-called dark side powers, I can't help but laugh at how tame they are in comparison. The powers have been mapped by default to the function keys, which is an absolute atrocity, so I would recommend changing them to your own preferences to make them more memorable. For example, I set my keys to G for Force Grip, H for Force Healing, F for Force Push, E for Electricity, Q for Quickly Pull Enemies Towards You, T for Turn on Force Protection, and of course, F4 for what the F am I looking for? Along with your force powers and equipment, you are of course in possession of your very own lightsaber. This game is one of the rare cases of lightsabers done right. They are absolutely devastating to both you and your enemies, and sometimes your allies. Whoops. The game doesn't feature extreme amounts of violence, but you can often cut off an enemy's hand or arm and watch them writhe in pain on the floor. You begin the game with one single-bladed lightsaber, but at the halfway point you're able to choose to wield dual sabers or a double-bladed lightsaber, with each having their own movesets. Cutting through mercenaries and stormtroopers is cathartic as hell, while the lightsaber battles are spectacular and extremely tense depending on the difficulty. Speaking of, you're given 4 choices of difficulty: Padawan, Jedi, Jedi Knight, and Jedi Master. Foolishly, I chose Jedi Knight. The difficulty is a mess. Playing on Jedi difficulty is way too easy, but upgrading to Jedi Knight is way too hard in the second half of the game, and that challenge scales proportionally to the amount of Dark Jedi you face throughout the campaign. With each new batch of missions, you face more and more Force users to the point where you seldom fight anyone else. For the first half of the game, I mainly used blasters and explosives because the core Jedi abilities such as deflection weren't good enough to take on anyone with my lightsaber. But as your powers grow and you're able to knock down groups of enemies, deflect blaster bolts back at them and turn them against each other, I found myself using conventional weapons less and less. However, on Jedi Knight difficulty and above, you can still die in an instant when facing a Dark Jedi. Lightsaber battles on higher difficulties require a mixture of luck, preparation, and dirty tactics. I don't think I ever walked into a lightsaber battle expecting to win easily. With no dedicated block button, sometimes you have no idea how they were able to hit you. All it takes is one lucky swing to kill you, so why take the risk? Don't fight fair, push them off the edge, set traps, turn the troops against them, run away like a coward, overwhelm them with firepower, and above all, remember to quick save. Checkpoints are few and far between, and dying could send you back to the start of a mission with an unskippable cutscene. For the Order of Piss, the Jedi codes of honour, chivalry, and mercy do not apply to the enemy. So if you were to ask me what difficulty to play at, I would suggest starting at Jedi Knight, then using console commands to increase or decrease it as need be. I managed to get to the second to last mission before I finally couldn't take repeatedly dying over and over and over again, and reduce the difficulty. Then I played the final mission and thought, how the hell is anybody supposed to do this on a harder difficulty? On the technical side, it shows its age. Levels are vast and empty. The character models are soulless. The textures are pretty bland and the art direction all around is uninspired. It also looks pretty weird sometimes on modern hardware with the graphical settings cranked up. The sharpness of the shadows give an especially odd quality to the presentation. At one point I fought this weird, cel-shaded wumper in a cage, then stepped outside to fight some cel-shaded snowtroopers. If you want the game to look at all decent, you'll need to use console commands to fix the resolution, and I'd recommend adjusting the FOV while you're there. Character animations range from okay to creepily robotic, and the cutscenes are extremely awkward with the Star Wars soundtrack on a constant loop. Check this one out.
Jaden, are you okay?
Yeah, I'm fine.
Some levels insist on precision platforming, something the movement system does not do particularly well. Fall damage is a mystery to me. Sometimes I feel like I'm dropping from a reasonable height, sometimes the game agrees. Certain weapons feel highly situational, and the mission briefs never give you enough information to make an informed choice. In one mission I painstakingly selected my loadout, only to find out that the entire mission took place in speeder bikes. That, combined with level design that struggles to guide players in the right direction, sometimes makes this a hard sell to people who aren't prepared for it. At the beginning of this review, I mentioned that Jedi Academy came out 1 year after Jedi Outcast. It shares pretty much all of the same DNA as Jedi Outcast to the point where Academy feels more like an expansion than a sequel. You'll see the same 3D models, animations, and the gameplay feels almost exactly the same. The difference is that Jedi Outcast makes you work like a dog to get your lightsaber. Then it throws you headfirst into a mission littered with snipers that your lightsaber has no hope of touching. It's got its own issues, but after that one awful mission the game gets a lot better. Jedi Academy on the other hand, throws you straight in with a lightsaber as your starting weapon, exactly as advertised. There's only one mission in the game where you don't have one. Jaden as a main character can't compete with Kyle Katarn, but he or she has their moments, especially if you decide to go full dark side. Aside from the story, the main character and the larger focus on the lightsaber, Academy plays just like Outcast. If you enjoy one, you'll enjoy the other. And though the two stories are connected in some minor ways, you could play Academy first and then jump straight into Outcast without skipping a beat. I'm sure most fans would agree that you play Outcast for the story and characters, but Academy for the improved lightsaber combat. Jedi Academy. It's fast-paced, janky, and extremely charming. It's quite nostalgic to return to the expanded Star Wars universe that no longer is. Before the dark times. Before the Empire. Gaming has made huge strides since 2003, but if you're able to de-digivolve from man-child back to regular child as I have, there is a ton of fun to be had. Thank you for joining me on this journey. I really appreciate it. See you next time.
Master Skywalker and Master Katarn have left the Academy. I have been instructed to provide you with a set of possible missions.